Thank you, Liam. I'm here today to talk to everybody about visualizing time. And what I'm going to start, I'm actually a PowerPoint MVP. So I'm going to start with showing you how you can visualize time in PowerPoint because everybody needs that agenda slide. I mean, that's really what most people are going to be using our visualizing time for in a presentation. But then we also have a variety of other types of timelines that we can visualize, and I'm going to show you how literally, despite being a PowerPoint MVP, I'm going to show you how Excel actually is more superior for visualizing time. So I'm going to share my screen here just to go ahead and get us started. And I'll start with my PowerPoint here. What we're going to do, one of the nice new features of PowerPoint is the designer feature. So let's say we're going to do an agenda slide, just like I mentioned, and we're going to say our day is going to be broke up into 4 sections. So at, say, 8 a.m., we're going to start with the welcome. Then at 10 a.m., we'll do activity 1. At noon, we'll have lunch. 2 p.m., we'll do activity 2. And at 4, would help if I could type, 4 p.m., we'll wrap up. Okay? So one of the nice things here in PowerPoint, this typically will pop up automatically for you. I have it turned off, but what comes up are these design ideas. And you can see on the right-hand side here, what this does is it gives you this series of timelines, literally. So that this is how PowerPoint creates this nice timeline for us for our agenda. And you can see in this case, it works great. And the reason why it works great is because I typed everything in order and our timing is equidistant. But what if I got this out of order? Just say I was a sloppy typer. And our spacing wasn't equidistant. So if we do this in PowerPoint and we go back here, you can see it's still doing it equidistance, and now our stuff is not in the order that it should be. So this is a limitation of the PowerPoint timelines. They're really nice, but you better type everything in correctly the first time. So where you get an advantage, and you can also see it doesn't account for different spacing. So it's a little misleading. Somebody looking at this is going to think that the time is spaced evenly across the timeline when actually it's not. So the very first thing I want to talk about in Excel is how time is formatted in Excel. All of us have done that. You know, normally you don't have to worry about this. So I might type 1/1/2020. Don't we all wish we could go back to that date? And it's going to format. You can see this actually formatted incorrectly. Here's the reason why. It's because it's set for time instead of date and time. So when you want to format time, there's 4 sections here on this drop down, on the formatting drop down for you. And you're going to want to check the one that is most appropriate for you to use. You can use a short date, a long date, and just the time. We're going to put short date here, and typically this is what Excel defaults to. Now I'm going to change it to general, and you can see what Excel does is this is a number actually that Excel recognizes to recognize date and time. So when you're formatting time, you want to make sure that you're using a date and time format. And when you're working with time, you want to make sure that you're doing that. Otherwise, I don't know, one experience I've had, I'll just give folks a tip here about, especially for the looking up stuff from the Excel MVPs. In my job, sometimes I pull down data and you will get the date and time and it's formatted in text, which is very annoying because frequently you cannot reformat it and it will not recognize it. But if you search, you can find Bill Jelen, John Peltier's, Liam's site. You can find formulas for converting that to date and time, and I highly recommend doing that. I never memorize formulas when I can look them up from the Excel MVPs. Okay, moving on. For our next timeline, this one here, this is a timeline, and this one is done with Excel. You can see that this one actually, we're using dates here as opposed to a time, but you can see that this timeline takes into account how things are not equidistant. When you look at this, you can clearly see that there's going to be a very big lag in between step 3 and step 4. And this is one of the reasons why I say that visualizing in Excel is superior to visualizing in PowerPoint. Forgot. So does anybody have any questions about visualizing the timeline in PowerPoint?
One thing we've just been told here, sorry, because I was just queuing up a video here, is we're not seeing the Excel, we're still on PowerPoint.
Oh, sorry.
So I just shared the screen.
You did or I did?
No, you have to. So what you've done is you've shared PowerPoint. So if you go up to the top, it's you want to share screen 1 or screen, whichever screen it is you're sharing, desktop. So just 1 second.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
It's okay. Yes, well, we're having a couple of comments about. Obviously, it's not an MVP requirement to know how to share a screen. It's okay, Glenna, you're not the first one. Don't worry. It's okay. We're all good.
Okay. So we'll go back to this one again. Okay. Can you see the Excel now?
We can.
Okay. So let's say I type in 1/1/2020. And Excel's going to format that for me automatically, but just in case it doesn't, for everybody to know, the easiest way to format your dates is going to be this formatting dropdown. You've got a short date, a long date, and a time. In addition to that, you can go into these number formats. And I know on the last one, there was a question about formatting in 24 hours. Here's where you would find that. This is showing dates, but if we had put, let me quickly put like 12. PM in here. If I choose this as time, if I go in here, you can see that one of the options is to change this 1330. That is a 24-hour time. So that's where you get that. Anybody have any questions about that one?
We haven't had anything so far.
Okay, good. Moving on. So let's talk about, here's our timeline, and you can see in it that it doesn't do the equidistancing like PowerPoint does. It does clearly show that it's going to take into account the distance. And the way we create this particular timeline is we do it with a line chart. So if we grab this here and go ahead and look at this data, can everybody see this pop up?
Yes, they can.
Okay. So if we go here, here's how we do this. What we do is we put our steps, step 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we put our dates. And then we add a value to it. Now, by adding a value to it, what we're going to do is we're going to use a we're going to insert a line chart. We're going to use a line chart to create this timeline. So what we do is we go in and we pick, we're going to pick the line chart with the markers. And you can see where everything is on a 1. So now we know this is step 1. Here's step 2, step 3, step 4. And we've got our dates down here, which we really don't need. So some of the first things we'll do is we'll clean up this chart. We'll go ahead and delete the x-axis. We can delete, well, before we delete the y-axis, see how this is, the spacing on this isn't quite what we want. So we can format this. We want to format our axes. And where our 1 is where we want it centered. So we're going to take this one to 0.8, the minimum. We want it to start here, end here. And we want our spacing so now we have it centered, see, and we want our spacing to be 0.1. Yeah. So now you can see we've got our timeline here nicely centered, and we can get rid of our y-axis now. Get rid of our grid line. And now we're just left with formatting our markers. So we want to go to where the marker options are. And let's make our markers a bit bigger. We can change them in the PowerPoint. You saw I made them diamonds. Here, they're circles. It doesn't matter. You can make them whatever you want. And then we're also going to want to add data labels. So we'll click to add our data labels. And we'll go ahead and format them. For our data labels, we're going to want to pick our, not the value. Oops. Well, that didn't work out too well. Sorry. We're going to want to pick our category name and not show the value. And then we can, for each of these, so for example, we might want to put this one below, this one above, you know, whichever looks is going to fit your chart best. The other thing we want to do right here, the separator is a comma. I like to put a new line for the separator. I think it just looks, whoops, let's pick them all. I like to pick a new line. I think it just makes them look neater. Well, that one's not going to take. And ladies and gentlemen, you just saw an Excel. I guess I'll have to report this. An Excel glitch. Sorry. But there you can see you can make your, this is how you can make a timeline using a line chart in Excel. So do we have any questions on this one?
Not yet, but I might just mention something there in your defence, Glenna. As someone that presents charts and things regularly on screen sharing, sometimes it's not so much that there are graphics drivers conflicts sometimes between screen sharing, and what you just experienced there is not unusual. And the people watching should just be aware that this does sometimes happen, which is often why we record. I often record videos on charts because it can be difficult to do them live. So please don't think you did anything. This does happen, and it's a known glitch in Excel.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad to know that it's not just me.
Oh,
So
no.
let's go on to our next chart, and this one, okay. I don't know how many of you guys have to manage projects, but I actually am a certified project manager, so Gantt charts are an everyday part of my life, and I'm going to show you two different ways to do Gantt charts. This one, the very first one, is a simple Gantt table, and this quite literally is a table. You can see here, this is a table in PowerPoint. I actually, you can do this in either Excel or whichever one you're more comfortable working in. If I go here, I can literally paste the table in. And actually, it's better to have these. You want, the one thing that you're going to want is for all your columns and rows to be the same size. That becomes very important when you're doing a table like this. So literally what you're doing is you just have a table, you enter your dates, and then you fill in just by virtually coloring in the blocks. So you can see in this example, task 1 goes from the 17th of August to the 17th of September. Task 2 is the next 2 months, task 3, and you can see where there's overlap. And this creates a nice, and it's a really nice, easy way when everything's pretty simple and you don't have too many things that you need to visualize. All you're doing here is just filling in the blocks. You're just putting a fill in. That's it. And it pretty much works the same way in PowerPoint. You highlight these two and you choose shading to fill in the color here. So you just insert a table, populate your table with the dates across the top, your activities across the left, and then shade in, make sure all your blocks are the same size, and then shade in your dates that match up for when the activities are going to be completed in your project or going to be worked on in your project. So do we have any questions on that one? That one's a really, really super easy one. And most people just don't think of it.
No, they're all must just be following along, Glenna. We haven't got anything at the moment, but I'll keep you apprised.
Okay. So our next Gantt chart is going to be where we're going to be using a line chart to create a another simple Gantt chart, but this one actually lets you maintain your data in a spreadsheet. And we'll go ahead and pull this one. Now this one requires a bit of thought.
Sorry, Glenna, could I just ask you to just make that a bit bigger for everybody? It's just to make that, but the zoom in on it so we can see the table a little bigger. I know you might put the images in. That'd be good. Thank you very much.
How about that? Now this one requires a bit of thought, and here's the reason why. Because these numbers are the values that are going to be used for your y-axis on your and forgive me, it's got to be the West Virginia me. I always have problems with the word axis. So if you look at it here, you can see This is why it's task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, task 5. What we're doing, let me go ahead and close this. Sorry, close this. If we go here, you can see that these values are what's going to be used for our Y chart. So however many tasks you have or activities over here on your left-hand side, it's the same setup as like you did for the chart, or I mean for the table, except in this instance, you're going, rather than shading it in, you're going to be putting values in here. And what that does is this places, by doing that, you're creating placements on your line chart. So if we select this and then we insert a line chart with markers, and this is what we get. This is not what we want. So we're going to switch the row and column. And now you can see that what we get here is our line chart. However, this isn't the order that you can see it goes. It's going this direction instead of this direction. Well, this can easily be fixed by you just go over here, format your y-axis, and you're going to want the values in reverse order. If you want it to go up, you can do it the other way as well. We're not going to need the legend, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. We can get rid of our y-axis. Rid of our, and then what we can do is we can select these, our markers here individually to label our each of our lines. So if we go here again with formatting our data, we're going to want to pick, no, not the category name, the series name in this instance. Okay, this is Liam. You think this is one of the weird things?
What do you mean?
This.
Oh, that.
Never mind. I know why that happened. It gave me both of them.
Oh, okay.
So if we pick this, we can pick this one, format it. Let's format this data label and let's put it on the left. So there's, by double clicking, we can add a single data label and then change that data label to be the series name. And in this way, we can label each one of our lines and we get a nice, neat Gantt chart that's easy to read. We might reduce the size of this. There we go. So by doing this, we can use a line chart to create a nice, easy Gantt chart. There's another way to create a Gantt chart, which is much more complicated by using a stacked bar chart, but I just prefer this because it's just super easy. As long as you remember that your value needs to match the order of your activities over here. So there's the Gantt charts. Do I have any questions on that?
No, you don't. No,
okay, either I'm well. Explaining things really well, or people are bored out of their minds.
No, we've actually had an increase in attendees while you've been on, so no, I don't think they're bored out of their minds.
Okay, well that's a good thing. Okay, so now we've done two simple Gantt charts. Now here, okay, I'll let you guys in on this one. This is probably the most complex one I'm going to show you. And honestly, I created this chart. I made this chart up.
I like it.
And literally what it is, I call it a clock chart, because what it does is it takes a pie chart and it breaks, considering your pie chart is 360 degrees, you can, whether you're visualizing hours or minutes, you can break it up equally. So this is kind of nice, because when people look at this and you're presenting, they can easily see, oh, we're so accustomed to looking at clocks, although many of us use digital clocks now. It gives you a nice representation of seeing how the day is going to be broken up in proportionally. So to create our agenda clock chart, we'll go ahead and open this here. And edit our data. Now, here's where things get tricky, because this one, all right, let me make it bigger. Here is where you are going to have to do you're going to want to do some math, and you're going to want to, it's time. It is visualizing time. It's not visualizing days. It's visualizing time. So what we're going to do is, we start off, you need to have a first row. In order for your clock to break up into equal time, you can see this is downtime right here. This is the time where, class starts here at 8:30. So this grayed out area here is time is dead time. The reason why is because you want your clock to start at 6 a.m. and you want it to end at 6 p.m., whatever you're visualizing. So for your very first row, you're going to want it to start your start time. You need to have a start time and end time. And then in addition to that, you need to have a duration. Now the duration can be calculated. And I can tell you all, I have not uploaded this PowerPoint file yet to the site, but as soon as we finish the session here, I will. So that you can just copy and paste this to do your own, and then just modify the times. So in this instance, we know that we always start with 6 a.m. So the end time for the first session is going to be when you actually want your first session to start. In this instance, it's going to be 8:30 a.m. I have this set up to calculate automatically, so it's calculating to 2 hours and 30 minutes. Then in your agenda, you want to make sure that whatever your end time is the start time for the next session. So you can see here, we end time at 8:30, we start at 8:30. End time 10, we start at 10. And what this does is this neatly lines up all your start times, you get your end times, and then this is actually what we visualize, is this part right here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this so I can show you how it's done here. So we've got our data selected. So you can see start time and end time is not used. So it's okay, you can have this whole thing selected, but really the only thing you're visualizing is this duration here. So what your pie chart, and then you have that is what this is showing you, that actually the data that we're visualizing is this. So that's what we're going to do here. If we do, just to show you quickly how it's done, we'll pick a pie chart. I hope I get this right. Yep. Okay. And then you can see the date and time you want to, hang on a second. Now the main thing we want to do is we want to rotate this. So we're going to format, and we want this angle of our first slice to be 180 degrees. What that does is that rotates this so that this first point is at the 6 a.m. point. So now if we add data labels, whoops. Let's go ahead and we can dump this here. There's our data labels, and you can see it's showing this is showing duration. That's not what we want. We can show series name, and what we're going to do, or no, not series name. Oh, shoot. Sorry, fellas. What we're actually going to do here to pick, we are going to choose values from cells. So what we're going to do is pick the labels for our sessions here. And then we also want the category. Oh, maybe not. So you can see it here. I'm going to have to go back, and you can see how they're all broken up. So if we start at 8:30, bear with me, gents. Ah, I know what I did wrong. If we go, here and select our values from cells, we actually want it to be these two. Okay. I've missed something, fellas. Let's go back and edit our data. Ah, there's why. I had this in here. Pretty sure. There we go. My apologies. So then we get our, you can see we have our time clock is labeled. You can work with these labels and put them right. You can see this one. So now we can see that topic A starts at 8:30. You can go, we can get rid of these because these aren't going to be used. We can select the color of these. So let's say we might want to black out this one and this one because they aren't actually part of our agenda, but you can see it here. So you can see we'd start at 8:30, maybe drag this label a little further down so it's not overlapping. But there you go. It's actually a lot easier to make this than you might think. You just have to make sure that your start time and end time are formatted just as time, that what you're actually breaking your pie chart into is the duration, and then use your the data label feature where you can pull value from cells to create a label for your data labels on your clock chart. So do we have any questions on that one?
Nobody's put one in, but I have one if I'm allowed.
Okay.
And it may be you're going to cover it off. On the original, it was just a case of how you did the longhand and shorthand as well, if you were going to be putting those in as well.
Which one?
The long hand and the short hand.
Okay. So let's go back to PowerPoint. Yeah. As a matter of fact, if we go to the next slide, these are just shapes. They are shapes that I literally put right.
You cheat. I was well impressed.
Well, they are. They're just shapes that I put on top of the clock. So if you're doing like a session like this, let's say you're doing an all-day session and you're using this agenda, you can see here, you can do, so what you can do for each session, you can pull this up for when you're, let's say you're doing an objectives slide. You can put this here and people can see immediately, here's your clock, you gray out all the others, and you can see you can set your hands at 10 a.m. because we're starting at 10, and they can see exactly how long. They get this nice visual. This is how long this session is going to last. It does a nice highlight. It gives you a nice, just a nice kind of visual for prepping people for what's ahead. And then you can put your objectives over here. So this is a variation on that one. And these are just shapes laid on top of it. Then you can move them to the position that works for you. Now you can also do an hour agenda clock so that somebody can see this is how my hour is going to be broken up, as opposed to doing a, this one would be the whole day. This one would be the hour where you're breaking up the 60 minutes. So if we look at this one and edit the data here, you can see that we're doing it in, we're breaking up 1 hour. So it starts, you know, we're starting at 9 a.m. But this is a nice visual too, because people can literally see how their hour is going to be broken up. And I've actually put in this one, this, you know, these Excel files are embedded in the PowerPoint, but I also included the chart here in this Excel. Here's the day clock one. Here's the hour clock one. So you can see that even in Excel, you can create these shapes, these hand shapes, and put them on top of your clock chart. So easy clock charts. I think just nobody ever thought of them before. So do I have any questions?
Do you want to guess?
No.
not yet. I think they're saving them all to the end, Glenna.
Well, that is the end. That's my deal.
No, thank you very much then. So seriously, do we have any questions? Feel free to open them up. I might, while we're waiting, I may ask a question then. Again, I know I've already asked one. So Glenna, you know, we are very privileged to get some PowerPoint experts in here. I've been sort of an amateur all my life. I was hoping to enter the next Olympics with my PowerPoint skills. What's your favorite PowerPoint tip? We get lots of Excel and Power BI and Power Query and Java and everything else that we've had. What's your favorite PowerPoint tip while we try and get the juices running of the attendees to ask some questions?
Oh, I can show you. Okay, this one. Let me okay, let me just say, most of my work is in Excel. It's actually not in PowerPoint. I love PowerPoint. But most of my work is in Excel and putting it in PowerPoint. So I am very, very, very good at understanding the relationship of PowerPoint and Excel. So since I have 20 minutes, let's do a quick goodie on that one. Would that be okay?
Of course. Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute.
Oh. So let's go ahead and just get down here in PowerPoint. Let's do a new slide. All right, and let's say we want to put in a new chart. Now here's one of the differences and why my PowerPoint peeps love They love inserting their charts in PowerPoint. They are less of a fan of creating them in Excel first, and it's because PowerPoint puts dummy data in for you. But let me talk about how Excel works in PowerPoint. When you put a chart in PowerPoint, you get this window of Excel that pops up. And that is on purpose. And when I say window, I mean that literally. The way Excel works is if you could, with PowerPoint, once I close this window, this is essentially a picture of the chart. Now, PowerPoint does let you do several things with it, but let's say I have Excel open here. Let me just open this real quick. And let's say that let's say I wanted to put something like this in. Now, normally I wouldn't, but let's just say I wanted this to go into my PowerPoint. And I do a copy. Let me take this away here, sorry. Because I can illustrate this better by putting Excel cells into my slide. Okay, now this, oh, sorry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, okay, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me go ahead and do a paste. Let me just paste embed it. If I double click on this, see how it opens this Excel window here? It's literally kind of cutting a hole in the PowerPoint slide so that I can go through it to get to the Excel data to work on it behind there. The other thing I can do is I can right click on this and I'm trying to remember. No. But see how it changed? Oh, okay, it opens this window, but see how I now have an Excel toolbar up here? This isn't a PowerPoint toolbar anymore. It's an Excel toolbar because it's literally cutting a hole in the slide so that I can work on Excel. So Excel is kind of sitting behind the PowerPoint slide, and you can think of it that way. People don't realize this is how all of the embedding and linking in Excel to PowerPoint, it's how it works. But once you close that, what you've got here is a picture. So that's why if you resize this, it distorts. So if you think of it as kind of like when you're working in Excel and you want to show it on a PowerPoint slide, you need to think of this as the curtains or a snapshot of that window. So if you want to resize it, you're going to need to do this. Now, unfortunately, every time you go to change it, 9 times out of 10, let's just say I want to change this to 48, and you snap back out of it, it's saved correctly this time. But about probably 50% of the time, I will have this window resized to the original, and you have to resize it again. And this is what makes when you want to paste link a table from Excel into PowerPoint, this is what makes it difficult to link it and keep them updated, because you're constantly reformatting it, or if you add a new column or a new row, those don't get added in because it takes it very literal. It whatever cells that you selected, it doesn't add to them. Even if this was a table and I added another row in, it is very finite for its selection of those cells. Now, a chart in PowerPoint, it works the same way. It's also cutting a hole, you know, in PowerPoint and displaying this picture, but it does it better than, say, a table from Excel or copying a series of cells from Excel does. So in this way, because you can actually add labels and work with the x-axis and stuff, you can't do as much as you can in Excel, but you can work with the chart. Whereas with the table or the cells in Excel, you've actually got to work with them within Excel. Did everybody understand that? Do I have any questions on that?
I haven't seen any on that. No, that seems to make sense. I've got one back on the clock chart though.
On the clock chart?
Yep. And this may be a 2-second answer here. It's like, is it possible to make the shorthand and longhand as dynamic?
No. Sorry. I haven't figured out a way to do it, but you know what? I bet can you do error bars on a bar chart? This is my not being an Excel expert.
Well, you can. I was actually thinking, so I've actually putting of using pie charts craftily and getting rid of edges and fills and doing that. And if I have some time, and I won't while I'm moderating, I've been caught out a couple of times already, as many of the audience will be aware. I'm going to have a play offline, and I'll tell you, Glenna, if I do manage to get it, I will both put it in the recorded section, so in the downloads next week. It's not going to be today, and I'll also pass it on to you, Glenna, so that you can pass it on for the future. You can still call it your chart. I'm not, but I think I've got an idea. It's I'm thinking of basically pie charts on top of each other. Yeah, I have an idea. I've done something similar in a different way before, and I fancy it might work, but until I try it, I don't know. Look, I'm buying time here, everybody. Have we got any more questions? Well, Neil Fitzjames has said it wasn't a question, but he loved the clock chart, so clearly portrayed. So thanks, Glenna. No, I'm trying to push for questions here. A couple more moments. Is there anything you'd like to add in the meantime, Glenna?
No, that was it.
Oh, well, look, I'll keep it up. While what I might do is then, for a second, thank you very much. We'll keep the questions open for a second, but in the meantime, anyway, I might just take the screen sharing back for a second from you, if I may.
Okay.
I just and let me do it right so I get this correct. If I do, right. I'm just putting this in here. Let's just hit share. Thank you. As you will all know by now, we do like people to put in evaluations. We've got the QR code and the bit.ly link here, please. I don't know if we're going to do another of these events or not. I've got to say, I didn't find 55 hours a challenge enough. I'm sure we can go 1,000. There you go. The team will all resign on me, and so will I if we do that. But it'd be good to know for the future if we put on an event like this, because who knows how long the world's going to be like it is at the moment. It'd be good to put these things on, especially if we can do it for charity. So if you could put some feedback in here, that would be brilliant. And again, just as a reminder, and I know people are probably getting a little over this one as well as the other one, so sorry. The Microsoft Excel team seeking research participants. They love hearing from their customers, and your involvement will help shape the future of Excel. And hey, who knows, you can put something on PowerPoint here too. If you're willing to be contacted to provide feedback and participate in future research studies, please sign up, and they will be thanked. Now, I think I've spotted